Hi there and welcome to the channel. I'm Slate, and today I want to talk about a really exciting banner that is happening, and that is the exclusive lucky pick starting on the 24th of December all the way through to the 28th of December, where we get to pick one of the released event exclusive heroes to basically get them within 200 summons. The only one that is not going to be available is obviously Mina, the limited Dracula event. But what I thought I would do is that because this banner can be a little bit stressful for you guys working out who it is that you want to go for or not, I decided instead of ranking them in an overall tier list, I'm going to break this down by player type: early to mid game, mid to late game, and end game, as well as collectors, to help sort of create a decision framework for you guys to help you decide who is actually best for your account. As I said, this is not a traditional tier list thing. I have broken it down into early to mid game, mid to late game, end game, and collectors. I'm going to go through each one of these. We're going to start off with the early to mid game players. This is where you're still unlocking a load of content. You might be pushing into the later stages of gear raids, sort of pushing into the 18s, 19s. You want to try and go for heroes that are going to solve multiple problems at once and help you with the limited resources that you have when you start off this game. So in my opinion, the priority pick for this is going to be none other than the wonderful Dao-chan. So why do I think Dao-chan is the priority pick for early to mid-game players? And it is because of the support that she brings your team. What I would say is that while she is able to heal, the main thing is that she is able to grant inspiration to your allies within range permanently, like while she is in that stance. And this goes from 21% to 25%. And then the other thing is that she also is able to give penetration, which is an ability to sort of bypass some of the defense as well, to two of your non-healer allies with the highest attack in range. And obviously at Awaken 3, this goes up to 3 allies, which becomes incredibly strong. And yeah, I basically think she is going to be able to support you in all sorts of content, especially as an early to mid-game player. You are going to be trying to break through into the Drake's Chasm and into your Nightmare 4 team. This is where you're sort of trying to push, because this is also where you get the best resources in the game in terms of at that level of your account, if that makes sense. So I definitely think she's the priority pick. Now, in terms of the nice to haves, it really is 2 other heroes. I think the first one on the list is the wonderful Wukong, and that is simply because he is an amazing single target DPS, which, like I said, with boss content is going to help you with progression a lot. He is very versatile with his 2-tile stance in terms of helping you clear campaign. He is going to help you in AMR. He is not fantastic in the gear raids, but like I said, what he's able to do is going to help you do the boss hunt to get more rewards to help boost your account. But if you have super strong single target physical damage already, you might decide that that is not right for you. And then the other one that I would recommend that is a nice to have at this level is going to be the wonderful Anora. She is an AoE mage with burst capabilities, and she is absolutely fantastic. Now, when you are early to mid game, you are going to be trying to progress through the gear raids, and gear raid 2 and gear raid 1, you really need some lovely burst damage, and Anora is fantastic for being your like primary DPS in that if you do not have other options. But because she is an AoE mage, she is quote unquote easily replaceable in terms of her job. So if you have a different AoE mage, this one might not be right for you. She used to be incredibly strong in GVG and was definitely a go-to pick for that, but this season the recent meta has shifted, and so she has slightly fallen out of favor in that regard, but she is still an incredibly strong AoE mage. So essentially, once you have those roles covered, support for your entire team, very strong boss damage and AoE damage, that is when you can start to move into the mid to late game player section. This is when you're going to be pushing 19 to 21s in the gear raids. This is when you are going to be pushing, now starting to get into APOC content. You definitely want to be hitting that 50k in the Guild Boss Nightmare 4. You are starting to expand into gear dungeons, etc, etc. This is where you are now going to be facing specific problems on your account or with heroes, rather than just like a general power block, if that makes sense. So in my opinion, we are now going to go over the heroes that I think are fantastic when you start to hit the mid to late game. So the priority pick for this level is actually going to be Kagiri. Kagiri is one of those heroes that as you progress into the late and end game, this guy shines and shines and just gets better and better and better, especially as you start to collect awakenings on him. He is a single target fighter, but he has an AoE capability. He has burst damage, he has power, he has all these very unique things in his kit that there aren't really any other heroes in the game that are quite like Kagiri. So he is definitely versatile in terms of boss content. He is versatile in terms of using him in gear dungeons or other PvE content as well. And so I just think he is a fantastically unique hero that you want to start to pick up as you are trying to go into this sort of later game to end game content. Now, the other one to talk about is obviously going to be Dao Chen, in the fact that you really want to make sure she is A1, because with her A1, she gets this extended range. Let me bring her up for you here, actually. So when you get Dao Chen to an A1, it actually looks more like this Aelin range. It is much broader than what she has here, which is a sort of like Dolores range. And it actually makes her at A1 a fantastic hero to support a huge amount. Now, the one thing I would say is that she is someone that I would soulstone if you have her already, rather than necessarily pick her for this banner. But if you don't have any soulstones, or you are unsure, or you've missed her to this point, then I definitely think going for an A1 Dao Chen is the right play. So in terms of the nice to have for this category, first up, we're going to be talking about Sun Wukong, and this time we're going to be talking about awakenings for Sun Wukong. Now, his A1, which grants this monkey business, is essentially within the Dolores range. It's within 2 tiles. It is a death save for those allies. This can be really nice in a couple of pieces of content. One obviously is GVG, which is where Wukong still does really well. But the other is actually when you are trying to push into APOC 2 and those higher stages, because actually having a death save on those slams and the poison stages can be really nice. But talking about APOC, it is actually his A3 that really shines there, and that is because this chance to inflict stun means that he can be the stunner for your team, and obviously freeing up that slot then helps you bring in more damage and get closer to that 120k chest. And obviously the higher chests that you get in these boss contents, the more weekly rewards that you get, which then helps you progress your account. I think one of the big questions that always gets asked is, how do people get so many ancients free to play? At the moment, let's see, it's been a couple weeks and I have managed to get 34 ancients, and that is by doing high stages of boss content. And so if you are free to play and you want to be getting those resources, you definitely need to start focusing on the boss content and pushing that as high as you can. Now, the next lovely, what I'd call nice to have, once you have made sure that you've got Kagiri and Dao Chen, is going to be Moradin. Moradin came out in July. He is a fantastic single target unit. He is also a movable hero in the fact that he is a tactician, so on his ultimate you can move him around. He has lovely value in boss content such as Abyss, if that is what you're starting to break into. He can replace Kagiri in the fact that he can be within your Meteoric Deluge range and you can move him out. I do have a video on that if you would like to see how to use him in that content, but he doesn't replace sort of core DPS. He is just a very lovely DPS to have, and he also is really lovely in the Malric trials for certain stages, trying to beat some of the lanes because of this ability to move around the board. The other nice to have pick that I would say at the mid to late game is going to be Captain Reeve. He is the first limited that we got in Watcher of Realms. He is a golden oldie. He is not the best tank. Like, if you are looking for someone to tank on the front lines, you are far better off going for a Baron or an Olag, to be completely honest. But what he does do is incredible crowd control. This guy's ability to slow KO enemies, to stun enemies is absolutely fantastic, and it is very good in specific content. So for example, in Immortal Codex, in the Hellfire, he is fantastic in that middle lane. He's really good in Malrix. He's really good in some campaign levels as well. He pops up in GVG sort of every now and then. He was meta, then he wasn't, and it sort of depends on basically how that's going. But what I would say is that he is very unique as a hero, and so there aren't many ground tile units that do the amount of CC that he does, and that is why I think he is a very interesting hero to sort of have on your account, because when you do have him, you're sort of like, oh, I'll just use Reeve, and he's one of those heroes that you kind of miss if you don't have him. And the final nice to have hero is going to be Gwen. She has been recently buffed, and she is now a much stronger support hero for your team, able to give this wonderful HP based shield, do some healing, do some rage regen, and then also able to inflict some debuffs onto the enemies. So this buff has been absolutely huge, and it's going to help you in sort of very specific content. There definitely seems to be a rise of the Northerners with this release of Rivenhold and the other two heroes whose names I cannot remember off the top of my head. And so as you are moving into the late game, picking up a Gwen who is recently buffed is actually quite a smart idea as well. So basically, by the time that you have cleared most of the PvE content, you have progressed through gear dungeons and gear raids and campaign and everything, and you are moving into the end game, you already have a really fleshed out roster. And so the big question is now, what can you get that is going to push your ceiling? What is going to help you with that end game boss content? And that is what we are going to discuss now. So like I said, when you're at endgame, you are going to be trying to push into this really hard, really boss content. That is going to be Abyss, and then obviously the new Matrix, and who knows what else is going to be coming out. So I would say that the priority pick for this is actually going to be starting to look at awakenings for different heroes. Now, first up is going to be the king of Abyss himself, and that is Kigiri. He is absolutely phenomenal in both Abyss and Matrix, especially if you get him to higher awakenings. Awaken 3, but mainly the one that you want to go for is an A5 Kigiri. So if you haven't soul suited him, if you are waiting to do that, then definitely consider picking him up in terms of who you want to go for that. And then the next one for that sort of like boost to your team that I would sort of put as a priority is again back to Gacha, and this time we are going to be going for her Awaken 3, and that is because putting penetration on one more of your DPS is going to have a lovely effect on the overall damage output that your team is going to have. Now, in terms of the nice to haves, we're going back to the Monkey King himself. We are now looking at his A5, which obviously will do more damage. In PvP, he's really fantastic. That is GVG and Arena as well. He's in some teams. And obviously A5 is going to do a whole lot more damage. If you have other really strong physical damage dealers, you might decide that your A5 Wukong is not necessary, but I think he's still one of the best single target boss killers, physical fighter things that you can actually get. And then the other one that we're going to look at is actually an A3 Moradin, and that is because he is able to basically get his ultimate back a lot quicker, and that obviously will make him ult more, which means not only can you move him more around the board in something like Malrix Trials, but it also means more damage, which is really nice. And then the last one really to bring up here is going to be the newly buffed Gwen. Now, in terms of Gwen for an endgame account, like I said, because we are starting to see this rise of Northerners, and also because Northerners seem to be very strong in Matrix, which is the latest endgame content, and who knows actually what other endgame content is going to come out, I would definitely say that this might be where you decide you are going to push and get awakenings for Gwen. Because I think to this point, the others have been a little bit more obvious, like people have soulstone their Wukongs or their Kigiris or their Daochens, but because Gwen has only recently been buffed and recently become sort of interesting, that it might be that you haven't had the chance to invest in her yet. And actually some of these awakenings are very interesting. Some are a little bit confusing, like this taking fatal damage, gains unyielding for 5 seconds. It's a little bit hard to tell whether it's her fatal damage or it's going to be someone else's fatal damage. We will have to sort of like really test to see that. But yeah, it might be that if you are now prioritizing in that very, very end game content, that you want to go for the Gwen Awakenings. And finally, we have a group of players who I am going to just call collectors. And that is because one of the amazing things in Watcher of Realms is the diversity of heroes. And you want to get all the heroes that you can on your account to fill out your lovely Pokedex. So that is who we're going to talk about now. So obviously there are 3 limiteds that I haven't really brought up. And that is because unfortunately they either need a buff, have been buffed, or just sort of like are solid but replaceable in team comps. And so that's why I sort of think that they are more for collectors than necessarily to help you progress your account in different stages. And so yeah, the first one of that is going to be Dahlia. She really needs a buff. She was the first mage that we got with this Ingrid range. She has poison capabilities, but unfortunately she just doesn't have the oomph that you would want to have. So she is lovely, but she is sorely in need of a buff. Next, we have Falsha, who has had a buff. I think she's had 2 buffs. I'm actually not sure, but she's been around a few times. She has this dual stance where she can do both physical and magic damage. She's really nice in some niche comps, and I wonder if with this Rise of Northerners she might get a little bit stronger. But actually, unfortunately, the DPS that she does put out just isn't strong enough to really be like, wow, she's absolutely amazing. But she is a cool hero in terms of niche and obviously to collect. And then the other one to talk about is going to be the lovely Lust. Now, Lust was very meta. She's a single target fighter, but the main thing is that she is solid at her job, but she is replaceable. The amount of single target fighters that we have in this game are numerous, to say the least. I think the main selling point for her, in my opinion, is actually the bond skill that she has with Arrogance. And that is because if we go to Arrogance here, the golden oldie himself, is that when you get Lust, it means that his attack goes up by 50% during his ultimate, which is really strong. Now, if you are in endgame, your Arrogance isn't necessarily getting the most love, but he is one of those heroes that completely carries your account all the way up to the late game. He is able to do AoE, he's able to do single target. He is just such a versatile hero. I have a lot of love for him, even if at endgame he is not the most incredible hero. So in order to wrap this up, it isn't really a strict order or a tier list that you need to follow perfectly. It's sort of basically what tends to happen in account progress is that role defining heroes matter first. Then you want to get strong generalists, then specialists, and then awakenings and niche picks start to be what progresses your account more than necessarily getting someone new. Early on, heroes like Daochan, Wukong, Nora usually give the biggest immediate return because they solve multiple problems at once. But as accounts mature, picks like Higiri or Moradin start to matter more because they're pushing specific content. Much later on, heroes like Gwen or Awakenings on characters you already rely on can make much more sense in expanding your roster further. And once you reach that point, everything else it comes down to is optimization or collection, which is where Dahlia, Lust, Falsha fit in. So basically, use this as less of a checklist and more of a ways to recognize what it is that your account actually needs. And if you want a deeper breakdown, I have covered most of these heroes individually in my last Who to Choose limited selector video, which I will link in the description below. And good luck with your pick. It is really exciting. And I think the main thing is not to worry too much because clearly they are doing these limited selector banners. It is something new. So if you do miss out on a hero this time, I wouldn't worry too much because I think they will be running this again in the future. So yeah, do let me know in the comments below who you are going for. As always, over on Discord, everyone there is happy to help and chat through your own options for what's best for your account. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Do like and subscribe if you haven't already. I look forward to seeing you in the next video and the next live stream. So until then, take care and bye for now.